Thank you for joining this edition of Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. I am Tim Graham of The Athletic, and on this episode, we're going to be joined by the usual menagerie of friends. Matthew Fairburn of The Athletic is going to be on as co-host, along with Jonah Bronstein of Bronstein Manufacturing. We'll also have Gerald Dixon for a wide-ranging discussion on everything from hygiene, I suppose, especially getting into it with Jonah Bronstein's philosophy on hair care, and Joel Stanishevsky giving us a Bills betting perspective, as he always does. He still has made you money if you've been betting all of his suggestions from the start of the season. You've made a few bucks by listening to Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. But let's get right to Gerald Dixon and what I found to be a pretty interesting discussion started by our Jonah Bronstein.
Like it.
You said my teeth? My teeth are fake.
T.
Oh, T. Oh. I thought you meant my teeth.
I did hit the record button, so we did just get
Cold open.
Yeah, we just did find out that Jonah Bronstein does not have fake teeth.
I do have fake teeth. Not
you
all.
do?
Yeah, about 6 of them. About 4.5, maybe 4.75.
I have a fake tooth. Matt, do you have any fake teeth?
I don't. All real. All natural.
Gerald?
I have 2 missing. Took them out. One of those idiots that didn't like wearing a mouthpiece. So a couple of them got chipped, and I just said yank it.
Where were these? In the back?
Nah, 9, and this one up top. By the
Wow.
side.
We got a motley crew here. So what's the story behind your 4.5 missing teeth, Jonah?
Yeah, well, now I'm doing the math. It's 2 teeth I wasn't born with. And then the process of replacing 2 of them, they ground down 4 of them, made them caps. So basically all you see on the front top here is, there's a dental term for it, but they're all pretty much fake.
So you don't have any good story about how you got hit in the face with a monkey wrench or anything like that in a barroom brawl?
No, but I had a retainer with a fake teeth on it in college that I spit out, puked out in the toilet freshman year of college. And then for the rest of the semester, I had the 2 missing teeth.
Jonah, you got to know when to say when.
Yeah. All right. Tell me when we're going to start recording.
What led us to this conversation, I don't know how actually we made that leap, but it was something else that has nothing to do with much of anything at all, is that Jonah is no-poo. And we've talked about this on the old Tim Graham show on the radio, but Gerald isn't aware of it. So we're revisiting that. We're going to reset this. So Jonah, give us your philosophies on striving towards no-poo lifestyle. What is no-poo?
Striving towards 0 poo emissions by 2024. No poo is no shampoo. Let's not confuse that with any other poos that people might be familiar with. No shampoo, because shampoo is not good for your hair. It dries out the oils. It's just generally not good. And I can't say that I never use shampoo, because sometimes I do as a treat. But my hair is better off, I find, intellectually at least, if I don't use shampoo often, or I strive to not use shampoo. And as you can see, it's working out well.
Is this something that you do just to have as a conversation piece for just such moments as this, that you can just say you're no poo? And I mean, what's the?
It's something I read about, and I thought, okay, yeah, I should stop using shampoo. My hair is going to be so much better looking if I don't. And then I didn't use shampoo for a long time and didn't notice a big difference. I can feel it and tell a little bit of a difference, and so now it's kind of this struggle between, should I use shampoo? Should I not use shampoo? Does it make a difference? And it's a battle I deal with every day.
How do you make sure your hair doesn't smell like poo when you use no poo?
Well, that's why I told you I sometimes do use shampoo. Sometimes I break down and get a luxurious lather going in the shower.
What about conditioner?
Conditioner is okay. Conditioner is good. So sometimes if I'm doing this right, I'll just rinse my hair with conditioner, or you can use like vinegar and baking soda and things like that. Even bar soap is better than shampoo.
What about dry shampoo?
Dry shampoo is just shampoo that's been dried. So it's kind of
still no good.
thing. Yeah, still can be bad for your scalp and your hair.
Have you done enough research on this, Jonah, to know what it is about shampoo that's bad for it?
Well, yes and no. I think there's more. A scientist could tell you more clearly than I could, but it's all those ingredients on the shampoo bottle that you can't pronounce. All of those chemicals are not really necessary, and that you don't need to clean. Your hair is self-cleaning. You really just need to rinse out some dirt and debris that mixes up in the day and clean your scalp, not your hair. And that's kind of how it goes. It's similar with your skin. You're not necessarily supposed to use soap on your skin day after day all the time.
You know the character in Kingpin, after Woody Harrelson gets caught trying to rob the guy was trying to rob the landlord, and it was all a setup.
Yeah.
And Woody Harrelson, and so they're caught back in the apartment later. He's already paid the guy off for this fake robbery so he can get out of paying his rent. And the guy says, "Hey man, I need something to read. What do you got around here?" And he hands him a bottle of shampoo and says, "Here, read this." And he's like, "It's new and improved. I read this already." But it reminds me of the ingredients, like you say. I used to out of boredom, you're in the bathroom, whatever, you got to have something to read. I used to read that stuff. And I challenged, this is useless Tim Graham trivia, to try to find the longest named chemical compound on anything that you could, whatever. And methylchloroisothiazolinone is the record as far as Tim Graham is concerned. It is in shampoo, but it's in almost everything that you would find in a bathroom. So anyways, yeah, you're putting methylchloroisothiazolinone in your hair.
Yeah, not
Who knows how good that is?
And I could say one more thing, and you guys can look this up and verify after the show, and our listeners can do this for themselves. One of the reasons they say you don't want to use soap and hot water on your skin every day, like most people do, is because it erodes something called your horny layer. It's true. We're supposed to have this like protective film over our skin that we're not supposed to wash off. It's called
right, but it's not. It's just coincidentally called horny. It's not some sort of hocus pocus thing that says it's going to attract women.
Yeah, I think it's a different definition of horny.
I would think so.
Jonah, listen.
Gerald, your thoughts?
Great information. Couple of things.
Gerald, what's an NFL scout's viewpoint on this?
Great information. Don't know if I'm going to use any of it, but I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I always take hot showers. I'm going to use shampoo in my hair. And I use deodorant and soap to bathe.
Oh, deodorant's not good either.
Yeah. You know what?
No, I think deodorant's fine. It's antiperspirant that's bad.
Right. That's true. That's actually true.
Yeah. Hey, Jonah, I mean, you can go out and live in the jungle if you want to. I live with my wife and my 2 girls and my son. It'll go well if I just walk around funky all day, man.
Jonah is the only one on this call who's not married.
They do say cold showers are good for you. I will say that.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, good for your skin.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. There's science behind that. I don't know about the rest of this. I'm going to have to do my own research.
No. What happens if you have oily skin like I do, right? So if you put oil and cold water together, typically that doesn't get the oil off, right?
Well,
so what is a guy of my complexion? Like I'm real dark. I'm smoked black. What do I got to do, Jonah? Give me my hygiene tips. Come on, get it to me.
Well, the theory is that your body overproduces oil, whether it's in your skin or your hair, because of the soaps and shampoos that dry out your skin and your hair. So and there's a transition phase. That's why everybody that gives up shampoo struggles with it at first, because your hair gets way too oily and greasy. But over time, you adjust and adapt. So the idea is that your skin would regulate itself, the oiliness, from not using. And I'm not saying never use soap, but apparently, milder soaps and less chemicals and less soap usage is better for your skin.
And when it comes to the hot water thing, Gerald, I'll tell you this, because I like the hot shower, but it is bad for your skin. What you're supposed to do is just have the cold shower at the end. Like, go ahead and take your normal shower as you would, but for like 30 seconds, go with like a tepid or go totally cold, however you can handle it. And it has something to do with whatever your body produces.
I think
it kind of shocks
adrenaline,
you. Yeah.
partially.
It's the same concept for when you get done shaving. When you shave, you want to put cold water on your face to stop. You know, it's just the same type of thing. But
It's
you
like
just do it over your whole body.
Swedish saunas.
Matt
The
uses a whole
Scandinavian.
bunch of beard oil, right? Matt uses a beard conditioner. Look at his beard.
I do have
He's
some
a
more.
handsome man.
I have some more beard oil coming in the mail right now because you're not supposed to use like it gets real dry this time of year. You're not supposed to use like soap. It's kind of to Jonah's point. Like the skin under my beard like needs extra care, but not like I'll condition it sometimes, and then the oil is good for it because it's like natural essential oils that like mix with the oils of your skin to create more moisture and whatnot.
Has Trent Murphy offered any of his beard oils?
Those are homemade, and those would probably be good to try. He's probably got a little bit more time to experiment with his concoctions these days.
You're right, man.
I'm just saying. Also, probably not a good time to ask him for him because he's probably
You're
not in a
right.
very good mood.
Trent's a good dude.
Trent's my guy. He's probably my favorite guy on the roster right now to talk to, but fortunately, can't really talk to him much.
Put in that request. I want to talk to Trent Murphy about.
I need to borrow some beard oils.
This dermatological discussion has been brought to you by Shampoo Travis Besaw and Kirshner, CPAs and business consultants. Shampoo Travis Besaw and Kirshner, CTBK, is a leading accounting firm with a growing team of accountants and business consultants with roots in Amherst. CTBK pairs every project with a focus on a human connection between its team and the client. For assurance, accounting, taxes, litigation support, and advice on mergers and acquisitions, or how to take a shower, CTBK is available and ready to solve any issue your business faces. For a consultation on the financial stuff, not necessarily to take a shower. I don't know that they'll come to your home for a consultation. Or like in Seinfeld, where Kramer will start taking notes, the guys at the YMCA. Anyway, for a consultation or a request to quote, call 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400. CTBK, over a quarter century of proven accounting and business excellence for Western New York and beyond. I knew I had to get that plug in because they would want to be in on this conversation somehow. So
you're saying Jonah's living the no shampoo lifestyle, but not the no shampoo lifestyle.
That's right. Everybody should live the shampoo lifestyle, full shampoo lifestyle. Gerald Dixon.
Years ago, it would have been fun.
Gerald, your thoughts on the Bills extending Brandon Beane? Everybody thought that it was coming. Probably some curiosity as to why it took a little bit longer, but it looks like the gang is going to be tied up and a part of things at One Bills Drive for the foreseeable future.
Outstanding move. I mean, he and McDermott came in together, so they're tied together. And they've done an outstanding job of getting this team where they're at right now. I mean, clearing out their roster, doing exactly what they needed to do in that building, of flipping that building completely upside down and pushing out all the bad and cultivating the good. They've done an outstanding job getting that building ready to make this playoff run.
This is going to be a difficult question, I think, Gerald, and I apologize in advance. I didn't give you any forewarning of it, but we're all transparent here. I think that this is not coming from a bad place. Like you just said, you push out all the bad and bring in the good, and you've turned over the culture. As somebody who was a part of trying to get that done, and now you're not there, I guess, what's that like to see it humming along and going so well, but you're not a part of it?
You know what? I don't feel one way or the other about it. I'm happy for those guys. Like I text Brandon, told him congrats. Text Sean on his birthday, tell him happy birthday, and they do the same. I mean, we have a good relationship. I'm just, like I said, I've always been different. I've always strived for what I wanted to do and to further my career. And I went about it the way that I went about it, and we're still good friends. And that's just part of the business. Business and the personal side, I remove that, but I'm happy for those guys.
As somebody who, like Tim mentioned, you were there during the transition, to see where it was, how quickly did you recognize in those guys that they could get to this point where it's probably hard to see, I guess, in the moment when they're turning over a lot of things that you had helped build previously. But when did you see in them that, all right, this was a pair that could work and that they could get the team to where they are?
Well, I saw it the first day that I met Brandon, and just how detailed he was on explaining his steps on getting the building and getting the team to where he wanted to. And just knowing Sean and understanding Sean's leadership ability and having just a clear vision of what he wanted. And being around the previous two coaches in the building and understanding what they were about, you just saw night and day. I mean, not good or bad for either way, but night and day in terms of organization, detail, development, and the word culture. I mean, everyone throws the word culture around, but he has words and the ability to define what he wanted from each person within the building, from the equipment room, the video department, operations, the business side. I mean, Sean just had a big Bible of understanding of what he wanted, and that's what he's getting right now.
Gerald, you mentioned the previous two coaches, and Doug Marrone, still the coach for now in Jacksonville, but Shad Khan has fired Dave Caldwell, the longtime general manager there, and Dave Caldwell being a familiar name to us in Western New York as a St. Francis grad. What are your thoughts on Doug Marrone's time in Jacksonville? You worked with him, and to see what's happened down there, what are your general thoughts on that?
Well, with Coach Marrone, I never had an issue with him as far as a coach, but one of the bigger issues when you talk about an organization is having the general manager and the head coach linked together. And just in my time in Buffalo with Doug taking over for Buddy and basically getting put with Doug, it was neither one of their choices, right? Doug didn't choose Doug Marrone, and Doug Marrone didn't choose Doug Whaley. So to make a long story short, in order to have a true successful organization, the head coach and the general manager need to be tied in together. They don't have to be the same person. They don't have to agree with each other at the same time with everything, but they have to have like conversations, right? And that's what Bean and McDermott, and that's what those guys have. That's what's going on in Pittsburgh. Any successful organization, the general manager and the head coach, they get along, right? They can hash out their differences without one sticking a knife in each other's back. And that's when you truly see teams win. But when you go on and the head coach didn't hire the general manager didn't hire the head coach, and they're just kind of piecemeal together, then you see a lot of the stuff that was going on in one's Bill drive. One guy wanted to go in one direction, the other guy's going in the other direction. And it's already so difficult to win in the NFL. When you have that going on, it's almost impossible.
Gerald, if it's that important, and I agree with you that the general manager and the head coach are on the same page, how come when the general manager and the head coach are the same person, it seems to go haywire so often?
It's just like any relationship, right? If you're the same person, you have to be able to see what the other person's not seeing. Like my wife and I, she is the positive energy of me. And that at some point, she needs to see what's going on through my eyes. Just like if we're all looking at the same talent, right? Same quarterback. The four of us looking at it, if we're all saying the same thing and we're all agreeing with each other saying, yeah, and there's something wrong with that particular person and not one of us say, you know what, have you guys looked at this? Then we're all just going to go in that dumpster fire together instead of one guy putting out that fire with some water or a fire extinguisher. So it's good to understand what each other wants in a particular relationship in terms of general manager and head coach, but it's not necessarily the best thing to agree with every single thing one person says, because the head coach can be dead tail wrong at one point, and so could the general manager. But at some point, they have to meet in the middle and come to an agreement.
Do you have an anecdote or any kind of example you can give about how Marrone and Doug Whaley couldn't work together?
And you know what? I don't even know if it's that they couldn't work together. It's that they never worked together before. So to put somebody in a tough situation, in a pressure situation on a daily basis, to make tough decisions and you don't have any history of each other, nor did you want to hire each other, then regardless of what the situation is, it's typically not going to work out.
Yeah, you see the relationships that do work, and I think more often than not, they came in together. It's not just somebody being hired and they get along. It's not one hiring the other. And hey, it's also they came in together. They're tied together. Their success, my success is tied to your success. Therefore, if I ever get to a point where I disagree with you, it's never going to get so dark as me needing to stab you in the back or take my concerns to the owner to undercut you or to get you replaced, because then that's going to hurt me.
Correct.
And there's a sink or swim mentality with when two guys come in at the same time. And granted, Sean McDermott did have one more draft than Brandon Beane did with the timing of it, but they essentially came in close enough and have been together for the same number of seasons.
Right.
So I think that plays a significant role.
Oh, it's vital, important.
What are your thoughts on the Steelers game, Gerald? Well, I have my thoughts, and I don't want to influence your answer or have you riff off mine. So I'll ask what you think about the importance of the Steelers game, and then we'll open it up for everybody.
Well, the importance of the Steelers game is prime time, right? So when you're playing a prime time game against the best team record-wise in the NFL, you want to show up and show out. And now it's the last 4 games of the season, right? So you want to take this game and build momentum going into the playoffs. And what's not the best situation, right? It's the best team record-wise. Sunday night, you just came off of having a great Monday night game. Your quarterback was on a whole nother level. You're playing against another premier quarterback in a premier organization. So you want to go out there and you want to play a clean game and you want to win this game. And if you beat them convincingly, now you're saying, okay, good. Kansas City, you're up next.
The thing about the Steelers is that I think that they are way more beatable than a lot of people or their reputation so far this season, because they were undefeated for so long and got to 11-0. They did navigate some landmines, which is credit to Mike Tomlin and the players that they do have. They did win the games. But if you go back and look at some of those opponents, key injuries, lucky bounce, struggling against bad teams here or there, and then pulling out a victory, this could be good for the Bills in terms of their national presence. Because if they can beat the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, I think a lot of people I think they are going to win this game. This is just me. I mean, what do I know? But I think the Bills are just playing so well. The Steelers, I've seen a lot of them. I don't think they're playing particularly great football. That if the Bills win this game, they are going to become the sexy pick to win the Super Bowl. Because a lot of people, everybody wants to pick the Chiefs. Chiefs are probably the best team in the NFL. But when it comes time to picking Super Bowl teams around this time of year, you see a lot of the pundits want to get smart. They want to pick the different team. So that way it gives them people something to talk about. It's a hot take. It's something that we can discuss. I'm out there. I'm a deep thinker. I see things a little differently. So I think you're going to start seeing the Bills, if they're able to beat the Steelers, in the talk, not only for making a run, but people are going to start talking Super Bowl.
I agree.
Do you think that could be a negative?
No. If this was last year with the Buffalo Bills currently, I would say, you know what? Yeah, because they don't truly know how to handle success. But you take away that one throw in the Arizona game, and they're on what, a 7-game winning streak?
It'd be 10-2.
Right? Oh well, they'll be 10-2, and you're looking at saying, "Well, hold on, they're as good as everybody else." But that one loss now puts them in a conversation, a jumbled up group. But they're playing as good as anybody. Because if you look at last week's game and just say, "Hey, every single team, we're going to grade you off of last week's game," they look better than Kansas City, that struggled to beat Denver. They look better than Pittsburgh Steelers, that lost to the no-name team. And I saw Robert Saleh on the sideline with his arms folded without an answer for Josh Allen. You hand out an MVP trophy last week. Josh Allen might have taken that away from everybody. That's how good I thought he played.
Borderline
think?
flawless.
What do you think
On a whole
about?
different level, man.
I'll throw this out to all you guys, really, and Gerald will probably start with you. But you're talking about Josh Allen playing at an MVP level, hitting probably the highest point he's hit. Tim saying if they win this game, people are going to talk about them to win the Super Bowl. We probably all agree that that should be the bar, right? That they're now in that tier where they should be contending for the Super Bowl. They shouldn't pass it off as winning the division is progress anymore. How and you think about the beginning of this conversation we had about trying to sustain success, how difficult that can be. How precious is this
The beginning
window?
of this conversation was Jonah having
Well, that's right.
having fake teeth.
No poo, right?
Yeah.
And then it
No
got
poo
crazy.
lifestyle.
And now we're getting really crazy. Bill's Super Bowl talk.
The beginning of
No,
the football
not
conversation, but
Not crazy.
how precious is this window that they have, and how? Not saying that they won't be back here next year, but how much do they have to kind of take advantage of what's in front of them, knowing how much can change year to year in the NFL?
I believe you can. The window is. I mean, you got a young quarterback, right? You got the quarterback. You got a young left tackle. You locked up your best defensive player. Your middle linebacker is a young guy that's going to lock up. The Bills are putting themselves in position to truly make a run and could be a collision course with them in Kansas City for the next, count it how many years you want, as long as Josh stays on his course. And when Josh comes out and plays like he did on Monday night and you have a stretch of 4 games, like this is what you are. There's no going back to, well, is this good Josh or bad Josh? No, this is 32 for what, 40? 375 yards, 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football against one of the better defensive coordinators that you had over there. I'm talking about you saw him spinning without answers. And he was on a whole nother level of throwing the football. You saw Josh feet calm, body relaxed, and rifling passes that typically you'd say, wow, look at Josh. But now that's the norm. So I want to say they are in that conversation with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we'll get to them, but your quarterback's going down in terms of age. That's not a young group that you're looking at. That's an older group.
I think the
Buffalo
Bills
are coming up.
I'm sorry, Gerald. I'm sorry to step on you there. I was just going to say
good.
that I don't think that the Bills have to win this game. I think they're still, like, for all the reasons Gerald was just saying, they're just as much a contender if they don't beat the Steelers on Sunday night, because there's all kinds of ways you can lose a game. Namely, you don't need to look too far back. The Cardinals loss is one of those losses that you felt better about the Bills and what they were, even though they lost. It didn't matter that DeAndre Hopkins caught that pass, really, to know that the Bills were legit and should have won that game. And they're a good team, the whole thing. So if they lose to the Steelers on a bad bounce or an iffy call or any kind, whatever, or even if it's straight up, they just lose by 10 points, they're still that good because of all the things Gerald was just talking about. The defense is finding its way, and the offensive coordinator is in a rhythm with his guys that even so I think it's important not to put too much emphasis on having to win this game. Even though it is the Steelers and it's in prime time, don't stress out if they don't win this game.
To me, it's how you play the game, right? So even when they lost in the last second to the Arizona Cardinals, the drive before, you saw your quarterback where everybody's fingers still crossing. Oh, I don't know. Just went down the field. Boop, 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 boop. Look right, throw a laser left. And your prized possession in terms of free agency and your trade made that play. So you can go home and say, wow, yeah, that's what our quarterback is, and that's what our playmaker is moving forward. And that's the expectation, regardless of what's at stake.
When it comes to Josh Allen's recent performance and his progression this year, how much could that change or the trajectory of that change if Brian Daboll were to get a job elsewhere, as we're hearing a lot of chatter that could happen?
You know, when you are playing that well as a professional, and when you start talking to MVP, now you understand who you are as a player and what plays you like and how do you get yourself in the rhythm. So regardless of who comes in next, and I'm sure that Brandon and Sean do a good job if Daboll does get a head coaching job, of coming in with a guy that understands what makes Josh. And going into your fourth year and you're going to get that contract, you're going to say, hey, you have more say and say, I don't really like those plays right there. These are the ones that I'm truly comfortable with. And that's when you finally figure yourself out and saying, okay, I've arrived. I understand myself now. And he's getting there.
What do you think of Brian Daboll as a head coaching candidate?
Listen, that's my guy. I love him. I think the way that he prepares, and the number one thing that I told Davis about himself, I said, you truly understand your players. And as a coach, regardless of how good you are with X's and O's, if you don't understand the Jimmys and Joes to put in those X's and O's, you might as well just throw that whole book away. And understanding that Josh is not Tom Brady, and Buffalo's not New England, and going in and putting your own stink on it and iron it up and buffering that the whole machine out, and you have that machine rolling. The two guys that's done an outstanding job with quarterbacks in this whole year, you got to say it's Pep Hamilton and Brian Daboll. The guys that everyone walked away saying, I don't know if they're that accurate, and I don't know if they can throw with touch, timing, and place the ball. They're doing that at a high level. So you have to give credit to the guys that are Ken Dorsey that's coaching them, but also Brian Daboll that's calling the plays.
Now that's from a coaching up your guys standpoint, but what about building programs, which is so much of what a head coach is not only is expected to do, but I think what the market demands, because I guess you go back to Bill Belichick when he left the Jets for the Patriots, and probably even before that, maybe even go back to, I guess, maybe Bill Parcells when he was bouncing around a little bit to the Patriots, and the whole if you want me to cook the meal, you have to let me buy the groceries comment, is that today's head coach, when he becomes a head coach for the first time, negotiates in a lot of power for good or for bad. And that's not to say that Brian Daboll is going to go be mad, crazy for power hungry, right. But that's kind of the way it is now. And so a new head coach, a first-time head coach, is generally expected to build the program. I guess you could be hired into a situation, which we said earlier isn't very healthy, where the general manager already brings you in, but that means that the general manager is on a much higher level than the coach usually, and you don't have that. I'm making hand gestures for those who are listening on right. The podcast.
On a level playing field. I got you.
But you know what I'm getting at. Can Brian Daboll build a program? He's been in a lot of them, but he's been in some bad ones too.
Right.
And the Belichick tree has a pretty poor track record in trying to emulate.
Right. And that's where just knowing Dave's is that he's his own man, right? He's been around enough places to understand that as you have to sell yourself. You can't sell somebody else's program to build your own. You can take pieces from other people's program to add it onto yours to make it into what your program is going to be. But that's why I would always say the general manager and head coach, they have to be synced together. That's the only way that you're going to have success, because regardless of who has the power, power and conversation are two different things. The conversation that we're going to have when we're going to come out of this meeting, we're going to come out of it together, and whatever you say, if you're the head coach and you want to have the last say, go ahead. But this is a collective effort on building this team. And to me, if you're at a team and the team is rolling and you're the assistant head coach, the offensive coordinator, and you're the assistant general manager on that staff, and you both understand how to build the program because you're just coming from a successful program, I believe you take one of those guys with you and say, hey, listen, this is what it is. We've worked 3 years together. We started off together. Let's go keep this thing going. My opinion.
Who do you, and this is kind of a broad question, but if it's not Ken Dorsey, if it's not we're going down the hypothetical rabbit hole here of Brian Daboll gets hired away. Ken Dorsey's presumed to be a potential candidate to move up to keep continuity and call plays, be the offensive coordinator. But are there any names? I know you're probably more well versed in the coaching world and the NFL world than we all are. What names do you see? I'm sure Pep Hamilton will be one of the first ones. But what offensive coordinator candidates would you be looking at? Who's caught your eye this year?
Well, when you look at it, you got to say what teams best fits like what Sean McDermott wants to do. So for me, it's hard to say the next hot play caller can jump into the same seat and have the same success, because also you have to be able to fit yourself within that team of coaches in that organization to understand how they flow. So most of the time, you don't really want to go in there and murky up that water, in my opinion. If Josh didn't trust or understand what other coaches had going on, and he understands exactly the same language that Ken Dorsey's speaking, and you see the success, yeah, you buffing that car up and you slide Ken Dorsey right into that and say, hey, Ken, here goes Brian Daboll's old playbooks. You and Josh, you guys get together collectively with Kelly Skipper and an offensive line coach and tight end coach, Rob, and you guys go in there and you guys figure this thing out, because the way that we were rolling, I want to keep rolling the same way. I don't want to come in and implement, say, Gary Kubiak's offense. Now Josh has to go all over and start over from scratch. You don't necessarily have to do that. You already have your franchise quarterback. You just need somebody to come in there and speak his quarterback language.
How do you think?
Good job of.
Just speculative here, but how do you think Anthony Lynn might fit as an offensive coordinator if a lot of people are expecting that maybe it won't go in his direction at the end of the season with the Chargers?
Yeah, I believe Lynn can go anywhere and do a pretty good job of calling plays, because that's what he did when he was here with Tyrod that year. But to me, when you're putting together a team, you have to put the pieces together so you can form the right puzzle and have the right pieces fit in that puzzle. And it all depends on head coach, coordinators that can all mesh. Because the better continuity that you have on staff, players will see it, everybody in the organization will understand it, and we're all going in the same direction. You can see teams that are struggling. You see the head coach not knowing what the coordinator is going to do, a la what happened last week in the end of the game versus the guys up in New York, right? No one knew that this guy was going to call zero blitz. I mean, that's what he's done his entire career, but at some point, the head coach got to jump on the headset and say, hey, you know there's only 12 seconds left. I want to see a one-high defense. I don't care what you want to call. This is the call that I'm going to make. Whatever your one-high defense is, or prevent, or wherever you want to call it, but you're not going to rush. You're not going to rush 7 and only have 4 back there and have a rookie free agent with their first receiver taken off the board, Bama guy, run right by him and score the last play of the game.
Always comes back to the Alabama guy, doesn't it?
It's a mecca. Capstone. Why not?
We've covered a lot of ground with Gerald Dixon. We've talked about the Bills as Super Bowl contenders, what happens if Brian Daboll leaves, dermatological tips for both hair and skin.
Hygiene as well.
I think we've said it all. Anything you want to add,
we even
Gerald?
got Doug Marrone.
We talked about Doug Marrone.
Right. What I do need to do is I want to address every single LSU Tiger and Auburn Tiger out there in the world. That's Tre'Davious. That's Kyle Williams. That's anybody that went to that other school in Alabama. Okay. Keep Alabama out your mouth, because all you guys do is get busted up. That's it. Appreciate y'all. Roll Tide.
That was intimidating enough that I'm going to keep Alabama out my mouth. That's at the end of this sentence will be the last time I say Alabama.
Well, I have an Alabama mouth question for Gerald.
Roll Tide.
Because you're a fan of the basketball program, right? What do you think about Nate Oates having Coach K's name in his mouth today?
You know what? I'm on Coach K's side, right? So I just don't think that when you're in a time like this, now if you're a professional athlete and you're getting paid to play the game, that's fine. But when you're a collegiate athlete and there's a chance that you might get sick, virus, whatever it is, no one knows the outcome of each person that gets it. Yeah, I don't think we need to be playing right now. My opinion. So I'm with Coach A.
Jay Billis had an intriguing comment the other day in which he, and I hadn't realized it really, and I'm sure the point's been made elsewhere, but I hadn't really seen it so passionately mentioned. But he was talking about, college basketball players or college athletes have been treated like essential workers.
And they're not.
Why is it that everybody else has to stay home, but athletes have to keep going? And these are college athletes. They're not even being paid.
I agree. 100%.
Because they got to keep that machine going. They got to keep that broadcasting machine going. That's not essential.
That's why media and entertainment has been deemed maybe not essential, but has really not been shut down in the same way that several other industries have. And college athletes are part of that entertainment, television, broadcasting machine. That's why we're seeing marquee Division I teams playing, but not Division II and III and lower levels playing right now.
Which isn't, it's embarrassing, man, in my opinion, because you have teams like Ohio State's going to potentially be in the college playoffs and they only played 6 games. Like you're just putting Band-Aid upon Band-Aid upon Band-Aid upon a huge wound that's going to eventually just burst open. Right?
Ooh, that sounds like a boil.
I mean,
or something you'd see on Dr. Pimple Popper.
Call it whatever you want.
While we keep it as a dermatological discussion.
Call it whatever you want, but
you guys ever watch that show?
No,
no, but I heard of it.
Made it up.
You told me how much you like it.
I enjoy it. Sorry,
but it's sad that we have to come.
Did I enjoy Dr. Pimple Popper?
No, that we have these young people out there playing, and every other week you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games canceled, and they keep pushing it back. Like, come on, you can't even have a good college weekend because you don't know what's going to happen or who's going to play. Like, being a part of a college atmosphere is going out there and cheering on your classmates at a game. If you're in Tuscaloosa, 100 and something thousand out there of all your peers out there cheering for you, parents coming to games, right? You're not getting paid. Like in the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, like you're getting paid. So regardless of who's in the stands, you're fine because you know that you're gonna cash that check. But when you're in college, that's a part of the whole college atmosphere, the feel of going to a college. So you can when you run out of Bryant-Denny Stadium, you hear 100 and so fans saying "Roll Tide," right? But you're not even getting that. So you're going to a scrimmage.
And guys are getting an extra year of eligibility, which exactly says to Coach K's point, that's essentially acknowledging that this is not a legitimate season, for college athletes. I think what's interesting about it to me is you can hear I went and listened to Nate Oates' comments so that I didn't just have it in words, on Twitter. And on the one hand, I respect that he's just openly taking a shot at Coach K, saying his opinion rather than hiding behind anonymous quotes or leaking it out a different way. He's just out there shooting his shot. Respect that part of it. But he sounds very eager to play. He sounds very borderline desperate to play this college basketball season. And I think it speaks to your point, Gerald, that the players aren't getting paid. They shouldn't, or it's maybe not necessary for them to be out there. It is necessary for Nate Oates for college basketball to be played, because this whole college basketball industrial complex, the whole machine, all the money that's generated, he's not as well paid if they lose another March Madness, or if this is not essential business that needs to happen, Nate Oates isn't as important as maybe he thinks he is. And his career goes a little bit differently. He's on the fast track to maybe ending up as an NBA coach if he keeps things up. And he needs these games to be played, damn it, so that he can put that on display. But I'm sorry, these kids aren't getting paid like he is. So you know what? Like, that's tough. And you know what? Good for Coach K. They canceled their non-conference.
Right.
And he doesn't need it. What the hell does he need, right? And he's in a different spot than Nate Oates because his career is established. He's had his fun. He's made a ton of money, and he can actually have the perspective to say, well, I don't need this because I have a lot of money, and damn, these kids don't need it. They need to go home and see their families.
Right. You're sitting on the bench and you're 6 feet away from another one of your teammates with a mask on just to get through maybe 14 games of the season.
Just so Nate Oates and athletic directors can cash a check.
Right. Yeah. What's March Madness without fans? It's
March Sadness.
It's
TV
a
show.
game. That's all it is. Summer league basketball. It's like going out to Vegas. It's not March Madness. It's just games. You're not going to get to that. You're not going to get the Cinderella stories. Like, that's what March Madness is all about. So now you're going to get the best teams in the ACC, the Big Ten, and they're all just going to go and play. You're not going to see the George Washington's beat up on the first seed or have Wichita State or something like that come through and have an upset. That's the fun part of college basketball in March Madness. If I'm not getting that, I can just watch regular season games.
We're not going to see Creighton make a nice run.
Or who's that
Austin
player
Peay.
Right. Who's that player that's going to just surprise all of us and like, wow, I haven't seen him all year because they're not on TV, but man, he's having an outstanding tournament. Like, you're not going to see that.
Steph Curry, somebody like that.
Well,
That's
I
how
saw,
we got
got
to
a
know who
great
Steph
team,
Curry was,
too.
right?
right. Well, I saw Steph play because Davidson played against the Citadel a bunch, and that's when I was coaching. But anyhow, yes, I agree with that. But Coach K gets it. Some of us don't. Coach K gets it. That other guy, I can't speak for him, even though he's at Bama. I can't vouch for that one.
I don't know if you guys
Go
saw
ahead.
this today. Oh, sorry,
go
UV
ahead.
played a game against Mercyhurst. Jim Weitzel coached from the 5th row.
Yeah, saw that.
Come on, man.
Like,
It's like any means necessary just to make sure that some coaches don't lose that special talent this year that they're going to coach. Because that kid that just came in a 5-star, you might only coach him for 4 games, and he's off to the NBA.
Well, I think that's what it comes
That
down
too.
to. If
That's all.
somebody's playing somewhere, nobody wants to be the coach of the program that's not playing.
Right.
Because you'll lose recruits and players and stature by being – if you're being too conservative than everybody else, that's not going to work out in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, I can tell you who's going to probably win the SEC. Is Kentucky still in there? Yeah, they're probably going to win. And Auburn and Tennessee. I mean,
Yeah, Tennessee's good.
yeah.
Mizzou's undefeated, just saying. Playing some good basketball.
But, I mean,
But I don't need them to play basketball is my point.
Hey, how
I'm
about
enjoying
this,
watching
though?
them, but I don't need them to.
Speaking of Mizzou, how about the Mizzou alums going ape doo-doo over the football program, cracking the top 25 with pretty much the same passion as UB, which has done it for the first time in franchise history? Shouldn't Mizzou have a little respect for itself, have a little self-respect, and act like
Which
hey,
Mizzou alums are you referring to? Because I don't. I did not go ape doo-doo.
you
Ape
guys,
nuts, if you
well,
will.
I just saying in general, I saw on social media, like everybody's like, oh my God, we're in the top 25. I'm like, hey, come on.
listen, like I said, you're some places when you win big games, you see people run out. And that's why I made that public service announcement to those Tigers, because I heard that head coach speech in the locker room. We don't tear down goalposts when we win big games in Tuscaloosa. All we do is just shake hands, walk off, say, see you again next year. We'll do it to you again.
Yeah, they just call that Saturday in Alabama, right?
Yeah, that's everything. Just like Mizzou cracking the top 25. That's just normal.
It should be. Hey, it was a long road back, though. I wasn't going ape nuts. I don't know. Maybe Tim
should.
saw some. Maybe Tim.
should.
Well, I'm like you, Gerald. I'm sitting here watching these games, and I've been watching the basketball just to give myself something to do. And Mizzou's pretty good, but like I can't really get into college football this year because half the reason I like to watch is the atmosphere, is the pageantry on display, and the energy, and it just doesn't feel like it matters when you've got some teams playing like 6 games, 7 games. It's like, man, this would have been a great season. You know, like UB, it would have been great to see play a full season, how good they would be. Or like when you have this piecemeal schedule, it's hard for me to get into it because it doesn't feel like the real thing.
Like the Heisman Trophy this year. Pick somebody.
Right.
It doesn't even seem real that Justin Fields or Jaret doesn't get a true chance to go out there and go to New York from Buffalo. How great of a story would that be? The little guy from Buffalo cracks the top 5 and gets into New York, in the city, to be able to sit down as a Heisman Trophy finalist. Right? But probably not going to happen.
Well, with UB, they're ranked for the first time. They got a home game Saturday, and there'll be nobody there. It almost seems like, you win a championship and you get no parade.
It's like, oh, you're in the top
happened.
25. Like, how many teams are there playing?
Right.
Like, what does that even mean this year? Like, oh, we cracked it. And I'm not taking anything away from UB's accomplishment. I'm more speaking from Mizzou's perspective, like of trying to put it in context and what it means and what it should feel like cracking the top 25. It's like, it's tough.
If you think about it, Nick Saban almost missed 2 games this year against Georgia, and who was the other game against? Oh, he was at Georgia, but he almost missed Georgia, and I forget what the other. Was it Auburn? Right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, early in the year, his false positive, and then a couple weeks later, he gets a positive.
So you missed game against Cal College, and you still win. So you're sitting like your head coach is not at the game? Nope, he has COVID. You have to shut down your whole entire team, yeah, because 23 of the young people have it. And now I'm reading on social media, a lot of these people are calling these young people that are opting out quitters. Like, come on, where are we going with this? Like, you're allowed to say, I'm not going to go out there and play this year. I don't care if I started the first 3 games and I want to opt out. Now I'm opting out. I'm not playing. Don't feel like going through testing every single day and getting something stuck up my nose. It's not what I signed up for.
I can't believe the Bills are winning without me in attendance.
Maybe you need to stay away.
And maybe they were under so much pressure.
I wouldn't be busted up about it. I would not be busted up. Yeah, it's probably Sully. It's probably Jerry Sullivan.
But think about this. What makes the Bills games fun, regardless of what's the record? Driving up Abbott Road and seeing that. I don't care where you're coming from. There's only
I drive 28 myself, but the point stands.
You got to turn up Abbott and come on in and see.
Matthew, he said he didn't care where you're coming from.
Right? You still got to come down Abbott, right? You got to come down Abbott at some point and see that, right? So other than like Lambeau Field, like that, they're stuck right in the neighborhood.
I'll say hot take. It's better pulling up to the Bills Stadium than it is pulling up to Lambeau Field. That's my hot take.
Take it wherever you want, but either way, you miss out on that. You don't see people outside. The difference between the SEC and the Big Ten to me is tailgating. Like, you take a young recruit from California and you bring him down south to any game down there, blows your mind. You've never seen anything like it, and now it's nothing. I mean, you're going into a stadium, like I said, it's the end of the summer, last scrimmage. You have your fans and a couple of your friends. You waving hi.
You don't even need to have washed your hair when you show up for the game this year.
It'd be a great year to go no-poo.
Yeah,
You can't even talk trash because everybody hears everything. Every Raiders check, I can tell you what's going on. When they tell you cities, one way they're running, East Coast, West Coast, you can hear every single. I hope sometimes I just mute the whole TV, man, because it seems like it's not even a true football game.
There's an existential element of it too. There's got to be when you're a player and you're out there, or you're a coach, or you're anybody, and you're like, "There's nobody here. Like, what are we doing? Like, how much does this matter? Like, what's going on? I don't know. It's got to be a bizarre feeling being out there and nobody's out there. It just sucks a lot of the life out of it.
Well, it's why I don't understand, more so with college and high school, why there was so much resistance to spring football. When maybe if you play later in the year or later into next year, it's definitely going to be somewhat safer, and there might be a greater chance of having some form of crowds and closer to a normal season than what we're experiencing right now. But everybody seemed to react as if that was the last case scenario.
Hey, Jonah, yeah, for me, spring football, that's only practicing 3 times a week. There's no true game. That's spring football stuff for the birds. I'm not doing it. I signed up to play in the fall. Spring I get better, and get stronger in the winter. Spring I refine my game, and fall is when I come and show out. That I think that's a mess because there's young people that's going to go into the NFL. So there's a group of people that's not going to play. You're not going to see the best of the best. You're going to see the best of the worst, and I think it's just all screwed up. They should have just canceled the entire year and just start from scratch.
What do you think about with high school kids? Would you rather play in the fall in an empty stadium and all this risk and uncertainty, or in the spring when potentially, now maybe not possible then either, but I think there's a greater potential that by the end of the spring, a high school could have fans in the stands and could have more of a normal homecoming game and things like that.
Well, Jonah, think about this, like the recruiting process. So when am I going to get recruited? Like
I mean, that's the big anxiety, I think.
Yeah, the springtime is when a lot of the recruitment happens. And if you're just solely worried about getting ready to play a game, I just think this whole year, you take it and you just etch a sketch, just scratch it out.
No, you don't scratch. You shake an etch a sketch. Shake it.
True.
I'm here. I'm the fact checker.
There you go.
I'm here for all the important fact checking.
Well, you shake it out.
You take the Rubik's Cube and you just blindly do all the different until you mix it all.
Flush the Rubik's Cube down the toilet.
Hey Tim, one more thing that I have to say.
What?
And I got to get on my LeBron spill right now, because I just saw James Harden wanting to get out the West Coast. Why is it that when LeBron shows up to a particular conference, all the good players leave and goes up?
They want to have a chance to get to the finals. What's the sense of playing the game if I can't make it to the finals?
I got you. This one to hear somebody else say it. Makes sense.
Kawhi Leonard didn't do that, though.
Who?
Kawhi Leonard.
Who's he?
He went from the East to the West.
What did he do?
Well, he won when he was in Toronto. He didn't do it quite as much in LA, but.
Oh, he won in another country. It don't count.
Same league.
Right.
Last I checked.
I know a player that didn't even want to go to that country. I remember when Steve Francis got drafted to the Grizzlies, and he sat there and poured down and cried because he did not want to go to Vancouver.
But he thought it was Nicaragua or what? Did he not know that Vancouver is pretty much just Seattle?
Well, like the ongoing joke to a lot of NBA players is when if you wanted to act up and the team really wanted to punish you, they'll send you to Vancouver or they'll send you to Toronto when Toronto was rolling. And you're like, you gonna trade me there? Yep. So everybody was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not going there.
I feel like those two cities are better than a lot of other NBA cities. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's better than Milwaukee. Pick another one. In Utah.
Better than Milwaukee, better than you. I mean, Vancouver and Toronto are two of the better cities in North America, no?
I agree. But
there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things the NBA players didn't like because, for instance, they don't even have ESPN up there. You know, the taxes, heavy taxes.
Yeah, you get paid less, right?
Yeah, there was that type. It was a lot of little things that would add up.
Sneaker contracts. You don't.
I mean, they're better than Orlando, no? Like, I'd rather live in Canada than Orlando.
I disagree. I love Canada. I love Vancouver.
Big taxes in Florida.
But if I'm making $100 million, yeah, stick me right in Orlando.
Doesn't Tiger Woods live in Orlando? Like at the
Jupiter,
he's a guy who can live wherever he wants. Oh, he's in Jupiter. Okay, so that's at least a little further down the coast.
I mean, it's God's country, right? You get a little bit of hurt.
I guess.
Florida, Orlando. I mean, it's the happiest It's the happiest place on the earth.
Yes.
Theoretically.
Yeah, Matt, you're screwing it up for every young person. Have you? When you go to Disney, how many times do you come back with a frown?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's Orlando, Sunshine State. Smile.
How many times am I going to go to Disney if I'm an NBA player?
They moved the whole league there in the
That's true. Yeah,
just saying. I told you guys, it's God's country.
I leave Elmo's and the Pizza and Ale House with a smile on my face. So those are the happiest places on earth for me. So, but, although I have different priorities.
Where's happy?
The happiest place is Elmo's on Millersport Highway, and Amherst Pizza and Ale House over in the Cross Point Plaza.
Oh man, yeah.
One is my Magic Kingdom, and the other is my Epcot.
Stick me in Charleston, South Carolina, and Orlando and South, in the state of Florida, and I'll be perfectly fine.
All right.
Charleston's a good town.
Oh, Charleston's that's the other place we call God's country.
All right, guys. Thanks for this. Great talk. We covered a lot of territory. This is what a podcast is all about, quite frankly. I think this might have been our best segment yet.
We're getting better with every show. Time
That's
on
what I
task,
say.
Tim.
That's right.
As long as Jonah comes out and he starts playing that guitar over his left shoulder next week, perfectly
I
fine.
can get somebody else to play that, but that's not my thing.
Jonah comes from a musical family, and he's the only one that has zero musical ability.
I'm the front man. That's why I get the hair.
All right, man. Fronts usually get their fronts knocked out. Don't do it.
Well, I already got them fixed.
All right, guys. Hey, Gerald, thanks. We'll see you next week.
Always take care.
The hard driving sounds of the end of everything means that it's time to once again check in with Joel Stanishevsky on the line from Vegas. Joel continues to stay warm. 19, 12, and 3 on the year with his picks against the spread, and we're talking about over-unders in there too. Although, Joel, may want to pull back on the bonus bets because the bonus bets are hurting your average. If you were just doing Bills bets, you would be super lopsided with your winning percentage. But
I got greedy.
3-2 with picks last week, 2-0 on your Bills. You had the Bills and the over. But then you also had the Packers giving 8.5 to the Eagles, which worked out for you. But a couple of upsets. The Detroit Lions, with their freshly fired coach, pulled off a win straight up over the Bears. You were even going to give the Lions 3. And then Washington football team beat the Steelers. Again, who could have seen that coming? But anyways,
Yeah.
Bonus picks this week. What are you going to do with that?
I got like 3, but they're also big favorites, and I don't like to just keep playing favorites. But when I look at the lines, there's 3 that kind of stand out to me as the line is a little bit off. We'll get to that a little later.
A teaser. Okay, so the Steelers are tricky. Coming off of that upset loss to Washington, and they opened up as favorites over the Bills, but that quickly flipped, and now the Bills are 2.5-point favorites. Can you give us a breakdown as to what happened there with the Steelers being favored right away and having it yanked right out from underneath them?
The book in town that puts up the earliest lines and the best lines when it comes to them being early and correct and not one-sided is the Westgate Superbook. If you've ever been to the Hilton/LVH/Westgate, whatever it's called, that book is incredible in terms of size.
Do they still call it the Superbook?
Still called the Superbook. The clientele that are there is just incredible. Like, you'll see some old timers there that are just, screaming at the horse racing. You'll see, you could find a whole group of people to talk to that will just give you fun for the whole evening. They opened that line, Pittsburgh, 2.5-point favorite on December 1st. So they put up those lines a little bit early, and they do that as the season goes on. They can put up a line early, expecting what they think it's going to be. And then a couple of days later, that went to Pittsburgh 1.5. And then as we hit yesterday, it went down to a pick. And then last night into today, Buffalo, a small favorite. Buffalo now 2.5-point favorites. And this is basically your reaction type bets and the line moves. You saw Pittsburgh, who, you can say beat lesser teams and got a couple lucky bounces and didn't really play anybody good. But they still were an undefeated team. So that takes a lot of good play, lucky bounces, all of those things. I mean, how many times do we as Bills fans say that it was unlucky or the refs were against us and all this other stuff? So you have to be lucky with the play. You have to be lucky with the calls, with bounces, all that stuff. But Pittsburgh is still a great team. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're, depending upon what power rankings you're looking at, they're anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5. And the Bills are also up there in the top 5 in most power rankings as well. So you're looking at 2 really, really good teams. But yeah, the line has moved from Pittsburgh as a 2.5-point favorite to now the Bills as a 2.5-point favorite. So it's a pretty big move. I think it's a bit too much of a big move. I think the line at pick was about right. When you look at home field advantage, even without the fans, still talking about home field advantage, and the way that the teams are playing and the offenses and the defenses and how they match up against each other, pick to me is the right number. Bills moving to a 2.5-point favorite. I think it's a bit overreactionary, but not out of the realm of possibility.
So are you saying to take the Steelers and the points?
I wouldn't go that far. I'd say if you're going to take the Bills, lay the money line.
What are you saying, Joel?
I'm saying take the Bills, but lay the money line, minus $1.40. No points, just the win. You don't want to sit there and get backdoored on some garbage time field goal or touchdown and the Bills win by 2 or something. Take the money line, minus $1.40. Go Bills.
Okay. And then the over-under right now is at I just got my screen just refreshed. 46, down from 48.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at the wrong number. I'm looking at Browns Ravens. It is 47.5 down to, similar.
Down to
47.5 down to 46, down to 45.5 at the MGM.
Yep.
Why is it shrinking?
It's shrinking because the Steelers' defense. The Bills over the past, however many games. Let's look it up. Over in their 4 out of their last 5 games. But the Steelers are an under team. The Steelers are under in 4 of their last 5 games. The Bills, as we saw them, a very similar Buffalo team last year was an under game when we played against Duck Hodges. So Bills against Pittsburgh has an under feel to it, which is why those bets are coming in on the under, and the number is going down. I'm just, with the line being as low as it is with Buffalo, I'm just hesitant to play it under. It has an under feel to it, but 45.5 to me is too low for a Bills team that we can see can put up 35 points quickly. And when you look at that San Francisco game last week, I mean, how many 4th downs? We had 2 4th down and goals stopped. So you kick those as field goals, then we're talking even more points. Now, granted, San Francisco came back and scored quickly after the fumble from the rookie running back. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. Zach Moss, thank you. So that kind of turned that around. But if the Bills score, the Bills score on their opening drive at the 1, and San Francisco scores on their opening drive at the 1, I mean, this game is going to fly over, and it still went over pretty easily. So the Bills can really move the ball. Pittsburgh is more of a running team with Connor supposedly being back for this game. So that kind of leans to an under bet. I'm not familiar with what the weather report is for Sunday, but unless I see some crazy snow and wind, I'm definitely going towards the over of 45.5.
Now, we're recording this early, so if you're listening to the Tim Graham and Friends podcast, don't take this as gospel. Well, it's going to take me a couple seconds to bring it up. While I'm looking up the weather, though, what about the Steelers? And I think this lends itself to the theory that you probably want to lean over. The Steelers have some offensive weapons, and granted, they weren't able to unleash them against Washington on what was it, Sunday. I'm forgetting when all these games are played, Joel. I mean, we had a Tuesday night game.
I love it. I hope that they continue to do this and have Tuesday night games. Let's have some Wednesday night games in there. Let's have it all.
Yeah, so I'm forgetting. I forget what day to say. But anyways, the Steelers. That was Monday. It was a Monday because it was right before the Bills played. If you're unable to unleash Chase Claypool and get him involved, then I guess it doesn't matter what weapons the Steelers have. But they do have the ability to put points on the board, even though they've struggled a bit. And I think you could probably chalk up some of their struggles to the schedule being so out of whack for them over the last few weeks because of the COVID situations, their opponents, their games being moved. This game gives them against the Bills, gives them kind of at least some sort of regular week. They get to play on Sunday.
Yeah, I saw, was it Eric Ebron who made some comment about them playing 3 games in 13 days or something like that. It's definitely not pleasant for your games to be moved around. I mean, the Bills played against the Titans after that got moved a couple times, and we did not perform as we had hoped. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. When you're an undefeated team, though, you definitely have a bullseye on your back. And so so them losing was expected at some point in time. I didn't think they were going to go 16-0. I actually looked up the odds because that was a bet where they go 16-0. I think no was -$5, and I was like tempted to bet it, but I just don't want to lay that much money and wait that long to possibly cash out. And then sure enough, the next day they had lost, so it didn't really make a difference anymore. But I looked it up. Sunday night, it's supposed to be 31 degrees, possible snow showers, and 13-mile-an-hour winds gusting up to 20. 40% chance of snow. So that's a cool, windy day in Buffalo. But I don't think it's that crazy for the weather. I don't think that makes me lean towards the under. I'm still going to lean towards that over because the Buffalo has got such a high-powered offense, and they're really clicking. And Pittsburgh, although they did not play well this past week, I think are still a team that can score at will when you're looking at the offensive weapons that they have. And
these are teams that should know how to play in this type of
right.
weather.
We're not surprised.
Coaching staff knows how to game plan and the whole thing.
Right.
Just real quick to go over some of the Steelers' scores, and granted, they've played a little wobbly over the last month or so. Mike Tomlin getting on them for, I guess, going back to week 9 against the Cowboys for not being able to put the Cowboys away. But Mike Tomlin was on his team for not playing particularly great. And yes, they scored only 19 points against Baltimore in their previous game, 17 against Washington on Monday, and then 19 against Baltimore. But they put up 28 against Baltimore in week 8. They've scored 38 points against Philly, 38 points against Cleveland, 36 points against Cincinnati. Granted, these are not great teams, but they can put up points. Going back to earlier in the season, 28 over Houston, 26 on Denver, 26 on the Giants. I know I'm underscoring that these are not teams that are as good as Buffalo, but I think that I don't know. It seems to me that the scheduling and the COVID disruptions can maybe be that's what the lack of offense can be blamed on over the last couple of games, because they are unusual relative the Steelers' other games this year. Just a thought.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to that. Their lowest output, I think, was this past week at 17 points.
Yes.
And they've had over 30 points three times. So All they got to do is put up 20. Bills put up 30. If you're over, and the Bills win.
Week 10 against Cincinnati, 377 yards gained. And then against Jacksonville a week later, 373 yards of offense. So, yeah, they're capable, clearly. Your bonus picks, Joel. You're going to venture? You're going to dip your toe into that water again?
I'll put a little asterisk next to these 3 bets.
No asterisk.
Unless
something happens like the Broncos 2 weeks ago and everybody loses their quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, we're going all 3 then. We're going the Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk to the director of the sports book and buy it down to 7 because it's at 7.5 pretty much everywhere. But I'm going to buy it down to 7. Kansas City
CTBK
Chiefs.
Sportsbook will do this. They have told me, they've given me the go-ahead to allow you to do this.
There's usually some players every once in a while that will come into your casino and they let you do basically anything. Who's that poker player? Phil Ivey? He's still a poker player? Is that still a thing? That dude would come in and they would, whatever he wanted, tease, sides to totals, buy full points, anything. They're yeah, whatever, go for it.
And if you're betting online with DraftKings or FanDuel, they allow you to do this also.
Yeah. It's becoming a lot more a thing now where they allow it because you're paying that extra 10 cents, 20 cents, depending upon the book for that half a point. And they want that, just like how we were talking about how they can sell your bets back. They want that. So if they can guarantee themselves making some more juice, they'll absolutely do it. So I appreciate that. We're also
so you're taking Tennessee and you're going to give 7 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jacksonville's kind of been screwing me lately, but I'm going to just keep hammering them until I win my money back. Kansas City Chiefs -7 at the Dolphins. I'm a little leery on that, but I think that line's a little bit off. Should be a little bit higher to me. So I'm going to take that -7 for Kansas City. And then the biggest favorite, Seattle Seahawks -13.5, hosting the New York Football Jets. I think that last loss to the Raiders was just so disheartening to the team and to the fan base and to everybody else. I mean, I saw videos of fans cheering for the Jets that were Jets fans that were cheering that they lost because they don't want to give up that first overall draft pick. So I think at this point the players are just kind of, giving up. And I think Seattle really needs to kick someone's ass to get themselves back in gear. And I think this is the week. So I'm going to take that one too. Three big favorites.
The money has been coming in on the Jets. So Seattle opened as 15-point favorites in that game. It's now down to 13.5. Does that mean that if you want to follow through with this suggestion, like you say, Joel, you maybe wait for the number to go down a little bit, or because is there a chance it could go the other way?
I don't think it's going to go down much more, if at all. Getting past that 14, that key number, was really important to me. If it stayed at 15, I wouldn't be interested in it. If it was at 14.5 or 14, I probably still wouldn't be interested in it. But 13.5, I like. I'll keep an eye on it. If it goes down anymore, I'd be even more intrigued. But I think that 13.5 is the right number to bet.
All right. You're in the books. Your tickets have been printed. Your tickets have been printed, and
don't wish me good luck. Don't wish me good luck.
I won't.
No, those superstitious sports bettors, they don't want good luck. They don't want $50 bills. They don't want have a nice day. They don't want to touch whatever you're touching. Turn your tickets over. Push them to me with a pencil. These are just that's the people that you see at the Westgate. They want to go to a specific writer. They want the specific writer to turn the tickets over, to not show them what it says. There's people that I've had people that give me an envelope. Don't show me the tickets, fold them in half and put them in the envelope and seal it and give it back to me. That's the type of crazy sports bettors you see it in sports books. And the Westgate is ground zero for that.
The Westgate's I think it's so fun because of the location. It plays a big part of that. The former Las Vegas Hilton, which is a prominent property in Las Vegas, famous, mostly Elvis. It's where he had his big comeback specials and all this stuff at the Las Vegas Hilton, and major fights. A lot of Mike Tyson fights were held there, and or at least that was the sponsor venue. But it's not on the Strip. So I think that you have to want to go there, number one, but then you get some tourist element because it is such a prominent facility. But you're not just going to get the casual person passing through. If you're there, it's because you want to be there.
Yeah, so you're getting the people that want to be there, or just some homeless folks that just kind of trickle in. So you're just getting the greatest mix of people. You'll get, because it's an independent book, you get people that will travel for that just to get those specific numbers that the Hilton has, the Westgate has, that you don't get at an MGM book or that type of stuff, or a Caesars book, because all those books, the numbers are the same. You have limits. If these guys want that specific number and they want to lay more, they'll drive to go there. So the people that you see there, it's just the craziest group of people ever.
They might have walked over from the Continental back when that existed, the Maxim, maybe Maxim's too far away. Where else would you come from? That was kind of, the convention center, of course, is attached to it, but the Sands, I guess, or the Sahara. You could walk there from the Sahara.
Yeah, well, it's Sahara again. It was Sahara, then SLS, now Sahara again. Yeah, you'd walk there because I think they're a William Hill book. So if you want that independent book number, you'll walk across the street, or anyone on that's what also the train, the trolley, whatever it's called, the monorail, as the last stop is right there also. So you can just hop on the monorail from any of those other properties and get off there and get all your bets in, and you get a great group of people there hanging out.
Fantastic spot. The Superbook. I ended a night there. I was on assignment when I was working for the Las Vegas Sun. When the Bulls were playing the Jazz in the NBA Finals, and Phil Jackson gave Dennis Rodman a pass to go from Salt Lake City to Vegas for the day. It was kind of the way that you helped get it out of Rodman's system. And it was kind of a controversial thing, but he was allowed to skip practice. Dennis, you go ahead and do what you, and so my assignment was to find Dennis Rodman and follow him for the night. And he was a guest of the Hilton that night. So the Hilton limousine picked him up at the, is it Pryor Aviation? I think it's Pryor down there, the executive terminal that they have off of McCarran Airport. And he went to the Hard Rock, and he went to a bunch of different places. But we ended up the night at the Hilton, and the sun was coming up, and all the women and men in his entourage were like slumped over on slot machines asleep. Like they couldn't keep going. And he was still at the craps table. There were like 3 people at the craps table, and he still had this smile on his face and a cigar in his mouth. And because I don't think he was drinking, and he was just still going at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m, whatever it was. I had to leave to go write my story. And anyways, that's probably the last time I was in the Las Vegas Hilton.
It's a good spot. I need to go back there, As soon as this pandemic clears, I need to go hit up the Hilton, or sorry, keep saying the Hilton. I'll probably
Westgate.
always say that. Westgate. Hit the Westgate Superbook, head up the deli.
Is Jay Cornegay running it still?
Fries. He's now even a higher up there. I know he's still associated with the book. He's like a bigger vice president of something. So he's even higher up now in the world of risk management there than he was before.
Yeah, maybe the most famous bookie of all time, right? I mean, when you think about how much time he's put in, and he's always been very media friendly, and
yeah, he's always been super media friendly, super nice guy, easy to talk to. He'll talk to pretty much anybody. Those directors of usually the corporate directors at like MGM and Caesars and that, you don't really know who that is. They don't really go around much. The independent sports books, I worked at the Wynn. The director at the time, he was always doing like Dancing with the Stars odds, and he's always doing really stupid stuff that got him on like TV shows. But Jay Kornegay just being a legitimate, like, good dude, bookmaker, down to talk about anything and everything. Like, he's definitely up there.
You know what? I think we'd have to. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. I just said that off the top of my head without thinking. Roxy Roxborough is probably the most famous of all time.
If you're going historically, yes. If we're talking about the
Yeah.
last 10 years, I'd go with Jay Kornegay or Jay Rude from Mirage was pretty popular. He was part of that MGM stuff, but I don't know where he's at now. But he was a pretty prominent guy also.
We digress. I think there's probably a very small percentage of people listening to this who have any idea what we're talking about at this point. But I enjoy it, and it's my podcast, so I can talk about
Right, deal with it. But that some of these people, some of these listeners, one of these days will be in Vegas, and they'll be like, let's go check out that Westgate Superbook that I heard about. And they'll walk in, and they'll just see this group of misfits, and they'll think, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted and what they talked about, and it's still the same. And
A
it's
menagerie.
awesome.
Or go to Jerry's Nugget in North Las Vegas.
It's closed. It's closed. I heard it's closed because of the coronavirus
Permanently?
pandemic. No, just because of this. There's a couple of casinos that I saw were still closed in town.
Oh, okay.
Most of the smaller spots like the Fiesta Henderson and Rancho and Santa Fe Station, I think those are all closed right now. But yeah,
All right.
go to Jerry's Nugget.
Jerry's Nugget better
cheap
stay
prime
open.
rib.
Hey, good talking with you, Joel.
Yeah.
All right, catch you next week.
All right, take care.
My thanks, as always, to Joel Stanishevsky calling in from Las Vegas. Some closing thoughts here on Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. Here with Jonah Bronstein and Matthew Fairburn. We haven't talked much about UB football, and they are now ranked 24th in the country. And Jaret Patterson, two more games now that they've clinched. They're going to play in the MAC championship game in Detroit, which was expected. So really 2 more games to make his mark as a Heisman Trophy candidate. What UB can maybe get up to 21. It depends on what some of these teams do if they lose. UB is favored to beat Akron quite heavily. So what do we think UB can pull off here? They've cracked the top 25 for the first time in program history, getting a lot of national attention for what Jaret Patterson has done. Jonah, I'll open it up to you. What do you think's possible? What more can they do? Because I think there's still some more national attention to be garnered.
Well, they're in a good position, I think, to stay in the top 25 for the remainder of the season, as long as they win their games. But I think that they've gotten in there, and with other teams either not playing or losing games, if UB can win out, winning this last regular season game against Akron, then the MAC championship and a bowl game, I believe they'll end the season in the top 25, which is, as Lance Leipold said, it's a small reward to be ranked right now, but it'll be a huge reward to finish the year as a top 25 nationally ranked team. And then with, not sure if Jaret Patterson will come back, but a lot of other players are slated to come back next year. And it's the opportunity with the schedule, some games against Coastal Carolina and Nebraska are currently on that schedule, that if UB comes out of this season ranked in the top 25, I don't know if they'll be preseason ranked next year, but they'll be close and have an opportunity to be a top 25 team. And then there's a bit of a ceiling this year in that I don't think they're not going to make it into a New Year's Six bowl game unless a lot of teams lose. And there's probably not going to get much higher than the bottom of the top 25 rankings. But if they go into next season with more games and more opportunities and the chance to play against some Power 5 teams, and Coastal Carolina is not a Power 5 team, but a big nationally ranked program right now, where there's a higher ceiling next year that this year could feed into. And I think finishing strong really sets the table for, more exciting nationally ranked teams next year. And what I'm looking forward to seeing, or what I'm interested to see, is how a nationally ranked UB football team affects attendance and crowds at UB Stadium. Because we saw with the basketball team 2 years ago, that got to be a really hot ticket when they were ranked. And then last year when they weren't ranked, you saw, a lot more empty seats in that arena. And UB normally in a November home game would not have very many fans in the stands this Saturday. But, would have been interesting to see if fans were allowed, how many would have showed up and how much of a community buzz there would have been around this team. And hopefully we get to see some of that early next season, next September.
You mentioned Jaret Patterson and whether or not he's going to enter the NFL draft or come back for his senior season. He and his brother are so close. And James Patterson, the linebacker, also a junior, he's not going to enter the NFL draft. So what's the pull perhaps for the Patterson brothers to finish their college career together? Does that maybe play a part in whether or not Jaret Patterson turns pro?
Yeah, well, I asked Jaret Patterson really specifically about that on a Zoom call we had a couple weeks back, and he didn't really give a strong answer one way or the other, but he did say that is something he would think about. That would be a factor for him and his family. They came here to play together. James Patterson had better college offers than Jaret Patterson did, but they wanted to play together, and now there would be an opportunity to play their senior seasons together at UB next year. And I think that if Jaret Patterson does come back, I think that would be a big reason why. But I do think that him and his family and his advisors will probably look at the situation at the end of the season in January and decide whether it's wise for him to come out. If he's going to be picked high enough, if he's going to be a third-round pick or higher as a running back, it's probably a good idea to go and get in the NFL and take the money when it's on the table, because they have shorter careers, and carrying the ball a lot in college can shorten your NFL career. It's happened with some guys. But I would say if I were to predict what's going to happen, I kind of think Jaret Patterson is going to come back along with a lot of the key players on this UB team and make a run for, trying to have this type of success in a full season that they've had in a year and a half season.
Boy, what a boost that would be for the program, huh? I mean, we'd be talking about really substantiating UB as a juggernaut in the Mid-American Conference. And granted, Jaret Patterson will still leave eventually, but the Mid-American Conference, as Craig Service mentioned to me, and we talked about in the Q&A that I did with the first D1 coach, I should say, when UB went from 1AA to Division 1A in 1999, Craig Service and I had a Q&A for The Athletic. Anyways, it was mentioned how the MAC generally turns over pretty freely in terms of its best teams every year. But for UB to establish itself for what would be a third or fourth straight year as being the team to beat in the East, let alone, or maybe even the entire conference, that would be massive.
Yeah, and if Jaret Patterson does go to the NFL, UB still does have Kevin Marks, who's a pretty talented and productive running back, and him being the number one and not having to split carries. I don't know if he'll run for 400 yards in a game, but I think he'll have a very effective season. It'll be interesting to see a lot of these seniors who are maybe, aren't necessarily big draft prospects. Their NFL careers are borderline. Will they come back for now a free year that they have? Or if you're done with college, is it just time to move on, whether you're allowed to play another year or not? And how many guys will come back that normally wouldn't have come back, I think, is something to watch for all teams in the country. But UB has a few of those guys in that boat that normally would graduate, but maybe they come back for an extra year next year.
Akron is a 33-point underdog right now, opened at 30, and the money is coming in on UB. The bettors didn't think that was enough. They're happy to give more points to Akron.
Well, how about UB? UB hasn't played in 2 weeks, and they entered the national rankings and won the division all during this idle period.
Yeah, they don't seem to be the type of program that'll let up, though, because they still have something to prove, and I think that they know that these games are so precious. Maybe if it was a full schedule, it would be different, but you would think that the psychology would say, hey, we are only getting 5 of these games this year, guys. Let's make sure we go out and pulverize these guys and make them pay for showing up to the stadium today.
I think UB is going to be a very good program next year as long as Lance Leipold is still the coach. And I think that's more likely than not to be the case. But if they keep winning and they're nationally ranked, that maybe does increase the opportunities Lance Leipold could have at another school. But as long as they keep that continuity going, even if they lose Jaret Patterson and some other key players, they've lost talented players in the past couple of years, and only we've really gotten better as a program without them. So I don't have much doubt that Lance Leipold will keep it going. But if UB has to rebuild with a new coaching staff, that could change a lot of things.
Tim Graham of Friends, of course, is brought to you by CTBK. Shampoo Travis Besaw & Kirshner is a leading accounting firm with a growing team of accountants and business consultants with roots in Amherst, New York. CTBK pairs every project with a focus on a human connection between its team and the client. For assurance, accounting, taxes, litigation support, and advice on mergers and acquisitions, CTBK is available and ready to solve any issue your business faces. For a consultation or to request a quote, call 716-630-2400. Again, for CTBK, that's 716-630-2400. CTBK, over a quarter century of proven accounting and business excellence for Western New York and beyond. Before we go, guys, anything else we want to sling at our listeners? No?
Well, I mean, if
you, how about Big Four Hoops?
Yeah,
that seems to be getting going.
It's getting more going. I mean, UB's been playing for a couple weeks, and Niagara played at Syracuse last week. But Friday night, Canisius has its first regular season game at home against Marist. They'll actually play Marist again on Saturday. Niagara goes on the road to play St. Peter's. Bonna gets going next week. UB is now 2-2. They won today in it's not an exhibition game. It was a game that was originally supposed to be an exhibition. Then when rescheduled, it turned into a game that would count against Division II Mercyhurst. UB's got a transfer that just gained eligibility, Keyshawn Bruton from Coastal Carolina, who's probably the best shooter on the team and one of the better scorers, and he'll help them a lot. And, so we're getting going into basketball season, but at the same time, a lot more pauses. The Niagara women haven't played yet, and they're on pause for 2 weeks now. Niagara men's hockey, they beat number 7 Clarkson the other night, and then the next day said that their, upcoming series against Robert Morris isn't going to be played or is going to be postponed. So it still fits and starts with all of these winter sports, but it's going. And as Nate Oates said today, they're playing games, and don't tell them not to.
All right, Nate.
Nate Oates.
He's Mike Rodak's problem now.
That's right. And Rodak's his problem now.
That's what I should have said, actually. I don't want to why is Nate Oates a bad guy all of a
It's
sudden?
both.
Nate Oates has been a friend of the
ways.
show. It's not to say that he's a problem in general, but
Nate Oates called him Charlie, I saw in a video today, which I guess he was just confusing with another reporter named Charlie, but I thought that was just like a figure of speech. Hey, Charlie.
Rodak making a great impression. He's been down there for a year and a half or whatever it's been, and the coach that he covers doesn't even know his name yet.
And they both came from Buffalo. Like he probably knows who Mike is a little bit already.
That's our Rodak.
Maybe it's just a power play. It's like, I'll just start calling this guy the wrong name just to put him in his place.
Yeah, it's the opposite of that Dale Carnegie win friends and influence people. Always call somebody by the wrong name so that they don't like you.
Well, for my two good friends, Matthew Fairburn and Jonah Bronstein, I will always call you by your actual names. Thank you for helping me complete this particular episode of Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK.